If things don't go your way, do you feel a little bit overwhelmed, stressed, sweaty, and even angry? Do you feel the need to micromanage things? Do you feel like you need to be in control of every little detail of your life? Well, there is a way to overcome this control need, and I'm here to tell you why. Hi, I'm Jen Fairbairns, and I'm a coach here at 1 Year No Beer. I'm also the co-creator and lead coach of the Complete Control program which is aimed at high-achieving individuals and entrepreneurs looking to create big change in their life. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the control and where that comes from. Well, we all have a certain level of need of control. Our human brain needs it. We feel like we need to be in control of everything. We need to know what's going on. And so, we start telling ourselves stories. And that's just called being a human. But if we feel like control is particularly causing some problems in our lives, we might have to dive a little bit deeper and understand why. Well, control can come from a lot of different places, but the need to control comes from a place of us needing to feel safe. So we can look into the way we grow up. How did we experience life then? Was our childhood a very controlled one? Were we very controlled by our parents? Did we experience fear? Did we experience trauma? Where does this control come from? For example, if you were a kid and you were moved around a lot, you changed school a lot, you moved houses a lot, your parents, one or the other, or both, had drinking problems, your parents argued a lot, life might have felt out of control. And what happens as we grow out of adolescence, we go into preteen, teen, and onwards, when we start figuring out our own way, we start grappling back some control. That's where we can start creating some bad habits. That's where we can start grappling our sense of safety back. Maybe huge responsibility were put on your shoulder when you were little, and you've carried that burden with you up until now. What if the fear of failure is so great that you try and control every aspect of your life, of work, of your relationships in order to make it happen because the sheer thought of failure is just too great? If you feel overworked or burnt out and you don't know why, well, maybe look into this behavior of yours. It could be that control is what's driving you into burnout. The need to control could be the one thing that really prevents you from living life freely. Just letting go of that perfect image of that thing that you think you should be doing. This word should is so big. This has been put upon us by our family, by generations of what we should be doing, what we should be working with, who we should be marrying. All this pressure that comes with it. It sets us on this pretty difficult path where we just go ahead in a way that we think we should be doing instead of the way we want to. And it all comes from control. The need to reach certain outcomes. Fear can be an extraordinary driver to success because the simple idea of not achieving this will be too much. So fear will drive us, but that comes at a price as well. If you're someone with control issues or slightly controlling behavior, try and identify it. Why do you think this is? Where do you think this comes from? Talk about it with a friend. Compare notes, because you're going to see that this feels like a very lonely place, but you're going to see that you're far from alone in this. There's loads of people out there with this need to control certain outcomes. Talk about it. Don't sit with it by yourself. Control will see us create some bad habits or some habits that we are not particularly fond of. And if we want to figure out where this comes from, we need to understand these patterns, understand the root of this. To understand a controlling behavior or controlling pattern, we need to understand why and where does it manifest itself. What is it that you're trying to control? Really, remember that a pattern is something that we just repeatedly do. So if you've had a slightly controlling pattern for a longer time, it's going to be just second nature to you. So understanding it and understanding why the need to control is so prevalent in your life. Why is it important to you? Where does this come from? Is it something that has just developed by itself, or is it a bad experience that you had? Is it from your childhood? Is it from a past relationship? Did someone try to control you in a relationship? Did someone try to control you in your childhood? Did you feel completely out of control? This could be some of the sources where your control need comes from. That's it. And the sheer understanding of this, acknowledging this, and seeing that there's nothing wrong with you, is just a very well-rehearsed pattern. And is there for safety, is there to keep you safe and protect you. Then we can start to let go of the resistance a little bit. Dare let go of the control. Dare step into the unknown and tell yourself that I get that this is a thing that I've been doing and is trying to keep me safe. But I want change, and that's the number one step. I want change, and then we figure out how to do it. Many people has this desperate need to control other people, and this is something which is completely impossible. We can't, nor do we have the right to control how other people feel, how other people think about us, about other things. But if we find that difficult, if we feel like we can't get on board with their feelings, their thought, and their patterns, that's a sign for you. That's a sign there is some work for you to do there. Understanding that pattern, understanding why it is hard for you is key to change. Often people put expectations on others, on a partner, on a friend, on a family member to validate them. The validation that we expect from others, it may come, it may never come, but it is not up to anyone else than ourselves to validate ourselves. So when we put that pressure and that expectation on someone else, we're going to get into trouble. If you have someone in your life that you feel has a control issue, the way to approach that is in a vulnerable space, not unattacked. Because remember, people who have the need to control, they're doing that for a safety measure. And it comes from somewhere deeply rooted. So if we go to a person in a form of attack, we're going to be received with the same approach. Instead, ask someone, why do they feel the need to control things? Why is it important for them that me or you or someone else behave in a certain way? Ask them. They might not know or they might not be aware, but at least it can start a conversation. When we start a conversation from a vulnerable space, there is no bad outcome. We just can't start on the offense. We need to start from a vulnerable spot. We can't control how other people see us, how they treat us, how they talk to us. The only thing we can control is our response to it. We can allow another person to get to us, to make us feel bad. That's on us, not on them. And this is where we need to start implementing boundaries. And boundaries is another video that I have recorded, which I want you to check out after this. But if we don't have boundaries, people don't know how to approach us. When it comes to the communication and expectations of others, we need to make sure that we have boundaries for how we allow people to speak to us and approach us. We have just relaunched our OMB podcast, and now in season 3, we will be speaking to some of the leading experts in the world, where we go into the deep science of habit change and our beautiful brains. If you haven't already, please go and check out our podcast and definitely subscribe so you don't miss another episode.